Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Aaron Wiggum, and I'm your host. We have a wonderful show for you today. This man here has been in my life for over 30 years, and he serves as a mentor to me in a very personal way. But more importantly, this man has done some amazing things around the world. He has been a thought leader globally for a long time now. Been a C-suite executive for quite a period of time. He is a husband. He is a father. He is a man of integrity, and he is a fierce businessman. We know him and love him in Pittsburgh as one of the amazing thought leaders there. And we're excited about the work that he's doing now in leading the Habitat for Humanity. I bring you none other than Dr. Howard B. Slaughter. Welcome to New Voices, Dr. Slaughter.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm really excited about the opportunity to speak with you and all the great things you were doing in Tulsa.
Thank you. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with your story. Let's go way back to the beginning. Growing up in the eastern side of Pittsburgh and what all that had to offer. And take us through a little bit of your story, finding your way from, the life that you've known to the life that you now live.
Sure. The interesting thing about that whole story, and I won't give you the whole story because time won't allow me to, but when we hear people say that good things don't come out of urban areas or challenges or facing people in urban areas, so much so that you don't see the products that we like to see come on those neighborhoods. I just want to start by saying, I grew up in a very tough urban community in Pittsburgh. For those who know the area, Homewood is where I grew up. And it was a challenge because it was difficult to really grow when you have limited resources, limited opportunities, things of that nature. But I think what's really important for people to know about my story is that I had a great mother who really encouraged me, took me to church. But I always tell this story when I have an opportunity to speak, because I'm in the house of business and I've been in the house of business for a number of years. My mother told me one time we were walking and she said, "Son, when you were 4 or 5 years old," and this is interesting because a lot of people have done things like this, because it's really important to not forget those things that we've said and that those things that God has blessed to come to fruition. She said, "Son, you told me when you were 4 or 5 years old, we were walking. At the time, we didn't have a car." And she said, I told her that as you were walking through the gated community neighborhood, and I saw all these homes that were just in terrible shape. Keep in mind, 4 or 5 years old, I didn't know what I was really talking about. And I didn't even remember it until years later. She said, "You said, Mommy, if I had money, I would fix up these houses." And that's kind of how she said I said it. That was when I was 4 or 5 years old. I did not have any expectation that I would end up in the housing business. I'll talk about that a little later, but how prophetic that was. And sometimes we are speaking things that come to fruition, and we have to reflect on what we said and where we are years down. So I say that as a start.
That's it.
But growing up in Homewood was to me a great opportunity because I didn't know we were,
Yeah.
I didn't learn that until years later. I didn't know we were for it. And it's great because mother, family made sure that everything they could do for me was done. In Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
there's a park called Kennywood area. You know Kennywood. And Kennywood,
Absolutely.
a lot of schools go to where summer they have day Kennywood. And I remember one place we would always go is to Kennywood. Once a year, we'd catch the bus and go to Kennywood. And I really enjoyed that. But as I reflected back on when I was younger, I didn't remember many opportunities to go to places. We look at today, people plan vacations and all those things. You didn't plan it. There was no going to go to Florida or South Carolina or any of those things. Our vacation was you get a day at Kennywood. That
Yeah,
was
Kennywood. Yeah.
we look forward to that every year. But when you
Yeah.
think about where God has brought from to where you are, it's
Yes.
a time of joy and an opportunity to think about what He's done for you. So didn't have a lot of opportunity to go travel when I was young. It was no, let's get in the car and go down south for summer vacation or anything like that. But what it didn't do, it didn't deter me from still trying to reach a goal. It didn't deter me not thinking about what we didn't have and focused on what we could have, could achieve. And so from a very young age, I always knew I wanted to be in business. I remember seeing people carrying briefcases back then, some 30, 40 years ago. If you didn't have a briefcase, you weren't a businessman or a businesswoman.
You weren't in business. That's right. Yeah.
You had to have a briefcase. And I remember
That's right.
people downtown or wherever with briefcases really wanted that. Still didn't understand that. Now, let me give you another segue here. 30 years later, and I'll come back to this as well, where I ended up in Washington, D.C. when I was working at Pentagon. The first thing they gave me was a briefcase. So, something that I saw when I was very young, and that also thing. But starting out in Homewood, living in a place that was tough to live in, there were issues with the community. But it was a community that I loved and I still love to this day. Still work in Homewood, doing things that do my best to help make a difference there as well. But it certainly was an opportunity for me to grow and find my way. And as a result, we moved a number of different places. We lived in 2 different places, Homewood, then moved to Garfield, and moved to another place. And so I had an opportunity to see a little bit of city and experience different opportunities and atmospheres. So for me, growing up in the city of Pittsburgh, particularly in Homewood and in Garfield, was an opportunity, eye-opening opportunity in that I had an opportunity to experience what it was really like to grow up poor, but at the same time, understanding that I had opportunities to grow even. And so that's where it really all started when I was very, very young. But it was the foundation that my mother and my aunts and my family helped to build in me that I didn't recognize until we got a little older. And as a result, the Lord has truly blessed me to get to where I'm going.
Nice.
So that for me was big.
Go ahead.
Just that beginning. And I think this is really important. We really have to make sure we help people understand their beginnings. That's so important.
That's it.
That's really important.
Right.
I can tell you, I didn't ever think that I would have achieved some of the things that God has blessed me to. It just wasn't something I thought about. I thought if I could just do the best I could, I believed I would be okay, but not ever thinking that some of the goals and achievements that to reach was possible.
Well, and what I hear when I hear you say that is no matter where you're starting from, it's enough. Like you have enough, whatever you've been given is enough to make it to where you want to go to, right? And of course things are added over time, but the nucleus of who you are and um what makes you you know prepared for where you're going to go is actually already in you. It's not something that's going to be ornamental or something that's going to be external. This is the fiber of where you've begun, where you began, and like all of the things that happen along the way. I want to fast forward a little bit to your time in the military. Thanks for your service, by the way. Just let's talk a little bit about that. What led you to the military, and then when you were transitioning out, and this is one thing we like to highlight is transitional periods, right? So one of the snafus that kind of happens is when people are coming out of the service, they don't have a easy transition from service from the service into civilianhood, right? And so, can you talk a little bit about what led you to the service, and then what was your transition like from your time in duty, converting out now to a civilian life?
Sure. Great question. Thanks for mentioning that. It's really interesting. Here's what really led me to come to bullet. I was in high school, did okay. I was a B student, didn't work really, really
Mm-hmm.
hard to be a B student. I probably could have been an A student, a little bit harder. But, I was a B
Mm-hmm.
student. But because in my family, we still had a limited income, I knew that my mother, it was just my mother. So there was no resources to go to college. We didn't talk about when I was 15 and 16, where you going to go to college. That just wasn't a conversation.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, I knew that I had to do something. And my mother said, well, if you graduate, you can't stay here and not do something. And the not do
Right.
something to me meant that I had to figure out a strategy. And while I graduated from high school, there was no prospect of college. The jobs that were out there good if you had some education maybe or experience. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Two things. My mother said I got to do something. And I remember my cousin, John Darrell, who had gone into the military a year before me. And so I decided I'll go to the Navy. He went to the Navy. I said, I'll go to the Navy, and that way I'll get income, some experience, and get a chance to travel. The first time I was ever on the plane was when I was 17 years old. Had never been on the plane before. My first flight was the
Wow.
boot camp. First flight to boot camp. And so I joined the Navy, started out at the lowest rank at E1, enlisted one is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
worked my way up through the military. Went to A school. I ended up at school in Meridian, Mississippi.
Okay.
And this is interesting. Another thing my mother taught me, I remember when I was in high school, and I had to take one other course, and I didn't know what to take. My mother said, they offered me a home ec class, cooking and typing, mixed together. She said, take
Right.
the best move I ever did. Took the typing class.
Mm.
That led me to become a yeoman in the military, which was admin. And so I spent 4.5 years in the military. And to your question about the challenge coming out, and by the way, I had a great time. I ended up working for the intelligence agency, because I'm kind of on top of the clinics, all of that, FBI investigation, a whole nine yards. But what ultimately happened, my stepfather, mother remarried, was very sick and decided to come back home. So I got out of the military a little early, and the transition wasn't easy because I had to find a job coming back to Pittsburgh, still not having a degree, but had some experience. And so it was not
Right.
easy. And I found myself in the unemployment line for that. and I came back and had a job. I never gone to be in employment for a while. Began to search and figure out where I could go. Started my career at bank. Finally got a job at the bank. And I was actually the bank on that first teller customer service rep, not teller, first customer service rep. That was a guy. Did that because I was there. Long story short, the Lord bless, went into banking, but the transition military for me wasn't easy, but it wasn't difficult either because I worked hard to try to find something to move forward. And that's what I did. So it was great to make that transition. And then the banking career started. That was when it all started. Out of the banking, that was something that I was really excited about. I learned how to do banks. And a lot of people ask me today, because I do a lot around financial literacy. And Eric, the reason I really understood it early on is because I worked in the collection department at the bank.
Yes, you knew what not to do, right?
I knew what not to do. I knew what not to do, and I knew the challenges that people face because we used to call it dialing for dollars. Literally, my job was, after becoming a teller and customer service rep, to call people, make your payments, hang up, call them out, make your payment. That's what I did. And so I understood the challenges. As a result, learned a lot there. The Lord blessed me to move up into the ranks of banking, and it took off from there.
Yeah. Wow, it's wonderful. So you start to your career starts to take off in baking, and then I'm assuming you start to go back to school and get paperwork to go along with those promotions and those new opportunities. And I want to kind of highlight, as you were going up this ascent, or you were taking this ascent in the ranks through the banking world, um, did it feel surreal? Did you ever have to wrestle with like imposter syndrome, or did you ever have to deal with like, I'm in this room, but do I deserve to be in this room, or am I qualified to be in this room, or am I looked at as an equal in this room? Like, what were some of your thoughts and your feelings as you're ascending, coming from such a humble beginning to now offices and tables where $1 million decisions are being made?
It was interesting because when I started in banking, I started at the bottom, meaning, collections, those areas where, people don't necessarily like work, and began to move up. And you're right. I ended up going to school. And the bank had a program where they would pay somebody to school in. And that's how I started. And I also used some of my military benefits and went to
GI
school.
money.
Long short. Yeah, I went to community college, and believe it or not, I thought if I could just get a associate's degree, I'm happy, I'm fine,
I'll
and
be all
we
right.
go on
Yeah,
from
yeah.
there.
And
But
in that day, you kind of
that would
could.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely right. If you had an associate's degree,
yeah.
that was pretty good. Bachelor's was the premier degree at the time. Today we
Right.
know it's not just a bachelor's. But to your question about feeling a certain way, I remember, gentleman still is around today. I was coming down the elevator, and true story, I had on some clothes that were, it was acceptable, but it wasn't the banker outfits. And he
Yeah.
pulled me aside. He said, "Look at these guys and ladies coming down the elevator." We just stood in the hallway, and I was watching. They have white shirts, red ties, things of that nature. And said, "You got to change how you dress." True story. I remember this guy to this day, and began to understand that there is a different atmosphere and a different way of doing things. And I did sometimes feel inadequate because at the time I didn't have a degree. At the time, many of my peers did not look like me. That just,
Right.
it was just not in that field at that time. Uh,
Mhm.
just to look like me. I didn't know the lingo. I didn't have the connections. You felt disconnected, and you didn't have anybody to really talk to about it, right? So
Right.
you go
Yes.
home and you try to deal with it, try to figure out, what do I need to do? How do I move up? What am I missing? How do I get within this? All of those things are things that you try to figure out. And sometimes it's very, very difficult. So, you know, there are challenges that I have faced, that others have faced. And I told somebody not long ago, I said, have you ever walked in a room where everybody is different than you, but you still have to get along with everybody, understand their culture, the way they do things? It's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not
It's not
easy.
easy. Yeah.
People don't sometimes understand that. For African Americans, we're often in those situations where we are very one of the few, if not the only one, and we have to assimilate within that structure that we're in. And at times it can be
Mhm.
difficult because we want to assimilate doesn't mean the others will want you to be able to assimilate.
Will
Not
want you to.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Or help you, or don't even recognize that that process is challenging to you because they're not dealing with that. So there are a lot of different reasons why that
Right.
happens. And that begins to frustrate a lot of people because they don't know how to get through, right? They don't know how to get
Yeah.
to that brick wall. And it is a wall for some. So I just kept trying to, or one of the things that I did realize is, you know what? I got to get more education because one of the quote
Mm.
unquote equalizers, to some extent, not
Mhm.
100%, but to some extent, is having more education. So as a result, the Lord
Right.
bless, I went and got the associate, then I went back, got the bachelor's, and then I said, let's keep it going. I went back, got a master's, and believe me, none of
Yeah.
this I ever thought I would be able to achieve. And then I went back and got another master's, and then I went back and
Mhm.
got a doctorate, as well as providing, as well as taking advantage of an opportunity that was provided to me to do other supplemental education. So fast
Yeah.
forward 5 degrees later, I did a fellowship in Harvard. All of these things helped me to recognize, at least within myself, that I'm just as smart. I know how to make this work. I know how this
Right.
happens. And the Lord continued to open doors. I didn't ever think I would be president of several different companies, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And it's just a blessing of how God is blessed. But that transition isn't always easy for everybody. The thing I would also say is for people who are in those positions of transition, and I call them positions of transition because it's not something that you stay in, you got to stay
Right.
focused and continue to work at it. The average
Yeah.
person will not get a lot of people to support them. Generally speaking, I mean, you may have
Right.
one, two people who will support you, but
Yeah.
by and large, you're not going to have a lot of people who say, go for it, get it done. You've got to have that self uh, uh, determination to move forward
Mhm.
and get there and pray that you have this. But if you don't have that self determination to strive and to try to make it, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be
Yeah.
difficult.
I remember talking about that ascent. I remember you had just finished one of your master's degrees. I believe it was the Carnegie Mellon one. And I bumped into you downtown. We're standing out in front of uh, 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 Penn Avenue Place, at the Highmark Building downtown. And we bumped in. I said, "Hey, how's it going, Doc?" You said, "Oh, how's it?" Well, you weren't Doc then. We knew you was Deke then. And so we were talking, and you said, "Go back and get your master." You said, "Go get your degree." And I said, "Well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I don't have enough time for this." And you said, "No, you don't have time not to go get your degree. You need to go get your degree." And I went and I wasn't sure what to go for. And you told me I was going to go for business. You said, business is too general. Go. You said, how about finance? Everybody needs a money guy. radio station, a school district, bookstore, no matter hospital, no matter where, everybody needs a money guy. If you understand how money works, you'll always be necessary. And that's what led me to go off and get my degree in finance. And then when I finished that, you said, "All right, don't stop, go get your master's." And I said, "Well, I don't need I'm done with school." And you pulled out a check when we were standing there at Penn Avenue Place. You pulled out a check. It was a sizable check, and very sizable check. Some people's annual salary size check. And you said, "I just made this check in a couple hours. I flew up to Chicago, came back, and this is my check. Now go get your degree." And I remember vividly that conversation, and just and I'm kind of giving you your flowers. I do it all the time, but openly giving you your flowers now. How I needed to have somebody in my life who looked like me, who I knew came from the same humble beginnings, but you were 10 rungs ahead of me, and you were telling me, "Oh, you can get here." I'm telling you, you can get here. And I'm watching you climb. And as you climb, I'm climbing. And but without having a Dr. Slaughter to be able to be that pace car in my life, to kind of set a pace and say, I know what you've seen, but I'm gonna tell you something you've never seen. And if you keep going, there's more, right? I needed that. And so I personally, I want to thank you for always being that sounding board, and that that mentor that could speak into my life and help me to see what I can't see coming.
Aaron, I
Yeah,
really appreciate you saying that. I remember many conversations that we had. The thing that you did is you did it. The challenge
right,
is we talked to so many people. I've done seminars. I just spoke last week at a university here in Pittsburgh to students. Many don't follow through, unfortunately.
right,
You did.
right.
And I'm so thankful that you did. And I'm really excited about what you're doing in Tulsa. Let them know down there, we still love you here in Pittsburgh, by the way.
Yeah.
We
Oh, they
miss you.
know. I read my 412 hard. They know.
Okay, good. But what we
Yeah.
want to do is make sure we're exactly where we can be, but also
Right.
encourage others to not give up. I think the biggest impediment to the achievements that anyone wants to make is the ability to continue on. And I'll tell you something that most people don't know. I have 5 earned degrees. None of those degrees were given to me. They are
Or
all.
honorary. Yeah.
And I never spent one day on campus in the dorm. All of my
Mm.
school was nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
20 years at night after work. When I got my MBA, it was a program you had to go to school every Saturday, all day for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
All day for an entire year. The point is, I'm saying that it does take work, and it does
Yeah.
take effort to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't want to put that time in, but I encourage those who watch this podcast to put the time in, because down the road, it does really pay off. And here's what
Yeah.
I say to somebody: I'd rather have those things that I think would be helpful and deal with whatever I have to deal, as opposed to not having them and having to deal with those issues.
That's right.
Because education is important. Is it everything? No. But it is very important. Common sense is very important too. But
It is. It takes you a
yeah,
long way.
yeah, it
Yeah.
takes you a long way. Having common sense, having education, and more importantly, having the Lord on your side gets you where you want to go. I just didn't think that I would be where I am. I mean, I've met presidents of the United States. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to Barack Obama and George Bush. I've got, I was in the White House with Condoleezza Rice. I've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Because I've met movie stars. All of those things, they're all nice things, and they're
Mm-hmm.
achievements, opportunities based on the things that you do. But most importantly for me, I really enjoy helping families become homeowners and helping to
Yeah.
develop mortgages and providing financial literacy education. When I wrote my book, which is on Amazon, by the way, Addicted to
Yeah,
Debt.
go ahead, shout it out, by the
Yeah,
way, while you're there.
on Amazon is Addicted to Debt, Get Out and Stay Out. And
Yeah.
that came as a result of my wife told me years ago, you need to write a book. And I just
Mhm.
thought, that's nice, honey. I'll get to maybe 10 years later before I really wrote the book. But the point is, the addicted to debt is a challenge that I put out to people to say, are you really addicted? We hear about other addictions, but you really don't hear
Mhm.
addicted to debt. And what that really means is there are people that are shopping in malls and don't even need the things that they're shopping.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
spending more. It's so easy to do that. And one of the biggest challenges for all people, but in particular African Americans, is this debt problem.
Mhm.
We have a
Yeah.
lot of debt and we have less assets. We have
Right.
more debt and we do assets. We have
Mhm.
less ownership than many other ethnic groups or
Mhm.
race groups. We have less net worth compared to
Right.
other groups. So we're in this situation where we need to change that. And that's a big impediment for us to do some of the things we do. And so
Right.
implore those people who are listening to say, yes, whatever you need to do, you got to minimize the debt because debt has such a stranglehold on so many people. That said, the Lord blessed me to write a book. All of these things that takes time, but it can be achieved. Keep in mind, let's say when we started this conversation, I was a young boy at a single
Mhm.
parent home in a
Mhm.
poor neighborhood with no prospects of achievement for others who said that. What you want to do?
Right.
And so when I see others who are in similar situations, we can say, you can make, there is hope.
Yeah.
You can change
Yeah.
a trajectory of your life. You don't have to
Yeah.
be others say you can't be or you are going to be. And that's the
Yeah.
challenge today. And I'm so thankful that I can able, when you look back at your life, you realize, time flies. When you start thinking about it, you're 20, the next thing you know, you're 30, then you're 40.
Yes.
We're,
Yes.
all going to go sooner or later. What is it that you can look back and say you've achieved? How have you
Exactly.
others at humanity? What have you really
Right.
done? I've started programs, there's literacy programs at university. I've taught a lot of kids when I was adjunct professor and the graduate.
Mhm.
A lot of things that I wanted to achieve, the Lord has blessed me to achieve. But the most important thing is to be an example as well. And we
Yeah.
want to make sure all of our family members, all friends understand that, listen, you are in charge of your life. You are the
That
CEO of your life,
that's
right?
it. That's it.
You are the
Yes.
CEO of your life. And if you don't have an opportunity to be the CEO of anything else, make sure you take care of you and do the things you
Yeah.
need to grow to get to where you want to go. And that's the biggest message I think for me that was I'm in charge
Yeah.
of me, right?
Yeah.
I can make me do what I want me to do. And the key
Yes.
is, can you do it? Or are you going to do it? You can work hard and not
Mhm.
work hard. You can
Right.
go to school or not go to school. You can help others or not help others. It's all up to you. And I think
Right.
you're doing shows it is indicative of someone who can take something and make something out of it. No one gave you that opportunity. You had to create it. And then
Right.
people started pouring into you, right? But if you didn't do
Right.
anything, there's nothing to pour into. And that's the
That's it.
key. So I'm just thankful because, yes, we face challenges. We have, as Black
Yes.
men, let's be real here. We face a lot of challenges. A lot of people don't even understand. I'll give you one
Right.
example. Last night, I watched the news in Pittsburgh. It was a young man, and his suit, I tell you what you do would probably do at the time, but
Mhm.
he committed a serious crime. But they showed his picture in handcuffs on the news almost every night for a whole week. There was another
Mm.
one who was not an African American. He uh,
Mhm.
had a similar situation, crying, big crying, and she is about actually. And guess
Mm-hmm.
when they showed it on the news, they didn't put her picture on. They just had her name
Right.
and the background,
Yeah.
not her picture. And so here's a guy
Right.
did something wrong. They had his handcuffed. He was handcuffed. They had him in the perp block
Yeah.
for a whole. This other woman who was not African American, the only thing you saw was her name. And so
Right.
images that impact how people see us as well. Because it was hurtful to me that the guy did what he
Exactly.
did. And all right, you perp blocked him once. But every day for the whole week almost, the news showed this gentleman
Mm-hmm.
in an orange shoe, this woman, just the name. So we deal with those issues all the
Mm-hmm.
time. So the first thing is not to be the situation where you have to be perp blocked, right? But point is, there are very serious differences in how, in some cases, African Americans are treated. And we have to make sure we do our best to be in a
Mm-hmm.
position so that we don't have to deal with this. You know, a lot of us have never been in jail, have never been arrested, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people see things and believe that that's how everyone else is, or the majority is. We still deal with racism today. It's not
Right.
gone away. Institutionalized racism is still
Right.
on us. No question about it. How do we deal with it?
Yeah.
How do we work through it? And there are a lot of people who want to change those trajectories, not just us. But it's a big challenge, and we've got to face it, but we've got to deal with it, and we got to get through it. And you do that by living right, meaning trusting in the Lord, and doing your best
Mm-hmm.
to work hard and to help people understand who you are, what you are, and why you are. And I think and you are doing
Yeah.
that, your business. And I try to do that in everything I say and do. But as we provide examples to others, it's certainly a way for helping people see that things can change and good things can come out of bad situations. No question about it. Not that my situation was bad. It's
Absolutely.
just that we didn't have the income. We didn't have the resources. We didn't have the money. But that doesn't mean that you can't
Right.
achieve. There are ways to do it. Today,
Yeah.
there are people that will go to Harvard if you meet a certain income level and not have to pay. Take advantage
Not to
of
pay
that.
a dime. Yep.
Not a dime, Meaning if I had more time, I'd probably figure out how I could go back.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for
Mm-hmm.
all of us to understand that the challenges that we face are going to occur. It's how you deal and what you do with them that matters. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm really thankful that. And I've been in situations where it was tough. Believe me, I've come home and almost cried at times of the situations that I've had to face. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt that, this evaluation wasn't right. I know what it's like to be laid off. I mean, I've been through those
Mm-hmm.
situations and it's not pretty. It's not easy, but we all face something. That the key is how
Right.
we want to deal with it. What do you want to do? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the key. That's the key. You're going to get hit at some point in life with something that you may not be expecting or you didn't know how to deal with, but there's a way to come out of it. And I think that's so important. Bless for all of us to love.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. 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 So to now, here is the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity, which is leading a full-fledged cause in building houses for homeowners around the city of Pittsburgh. So kudos to you for that, leading that effort. You said over 24,000
Yeah, that's
individuals.
when I was at Fannie Mae. I was also the regional director for Fannie Mae, which was, arguably one of the largest housing finance organizations in the country in the secondary market.
Right.
At that time, I had a $2 billion housing plan. And when I was at Fannie Mae, that's what we helped over 10,000. And it's continued now that Habitat. I love the work that we do at Habitat for Humanity, Greater Pittsburgh as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's amazing because so much of buying a house it's like 60% finance, 40% the property, right? Like the whole thing is hinged upon how's the deal going to work, right? And the deal is going to work based on the integrity of the house as well, right? So you're getting to see both sides of those kind of married together in your work at Habitat, and I think it's wonderful. I even know some of the individuals that you've placed in homes. And one is a single mom who comes to mind. And she was just so elated to see that come to fruition, and never thought she would be a homeowner. Never thought she'd be a homeowner. But now her and her daughter are living there in the Homewood, Brushton area. And by way of the work that you're doing at Habitat. So kudos to you. I want to leave a call to action here before any last thoughts for our listeners, and then a call to action for you.
Sure. And one of the things that I just want to conclude this by saying, it is possible, whatever that it is for those who are listening, it is possible, because we don't believe that it's possible. It's not going to happen. It is possible to be president of Africa after spending 27 years in jail. Didn't seem possible.
In prison, yeah.
But it is possible. Nelson Mandela proved that. It is possible to be the president of the United States and be a Black man. President Barack Obama showed that is possible. It is possible to be a Black billionaire, having done a major TV show with success. Oprah Winfrey proved that. So there are a lot of things that we could talk about, but I want those who are listening to understand it is possible. And until you recognize that it is possible, most likely you won't get there. But you've got to know, whatever that it is for you, it is possible. That's the one thing I want to leave with those who watch the podcast. And but if anybody wants to reach out to me, first of all, let me just say, please go to Amazon. You can read the snippet of my book on Amazon, because, as I told you, Aaron, years ago, everybody has to deal with finances. Everybody doesn't cook, everybody doesn't drive a car, but everybody has to deal with money. And so you got to be smart about that. So, go to Amazon with my name and Dr. Howard Salter, Addicted to Debt, and you like the excerpts that you read. I've got some good followers on Amazon. Please take a look. You certainly can reach me. I'll give you my email. It's drhbsjr@gmail.com. You can reach out to me there anytime. I respond to all of the email requests that I've received. And I'm just so thankful for the opportunity, and to be on your show with you. I like what you're doing. I'm so blessed to know you and have helped to give you so important. You've just taken off me phenomenally well. And makes me want to get on a plane and get right down to Tulsa, spending time with you guys down there.
Yeah, come on down. We got a room.
Yeah. The only time I was in Oklahoma, I was in Lawton, Oklahoma, when I was in the Army Reserve.
Yeah.
I was in Lawton. We get some trading down Lawton. That I've not ever been to Tulsa, but I'm thankful for what you're doing. Thank you for the opportunity to be this podcast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. This has been a blessing, and we look forward to the work, hearing more about the work that you're doing. That is pretty much all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to New Voices. Until next time, continue to be encouraged.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newutulsa.com. That is NEWU Tulsa.com. Follow us on social media at New U Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our free cohorts for personal and professional development opportunities. New U is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.